Hey guys, and welcome to art class. Today we're going to make a rushing waterfall. Now this art project is inspired by a painting of a rushing waterfall in Canada by J.E.H. MacDonald. He was a Canadian artist who was a part of a group of artists called the Group of Seven that painted a lot of Canadian landscapes. Now this year we're talking all about America, but when I looked at this project I decided I wanted to do it because I wanted you to think about waterfalls in your area, maybe waterfalls that you've witnessed. In our own area of Southwest Virginia, you can find lots of waterfalls. The Cascades, Roaring Run, Falling Spring Falls in Covington. There's a lot around here that you can see, and many more. In the packet I sent home with you, I included a link to a little video about different waterfalls in Virginia and where you can find them at. And I want you to think about some that you've been to. Maybe you've been to some in different parts of America. Maybe you've been to Niagara Falls in New York and Canada. Maybe you've seen Bridal Veil Falls in Colorado. Maybe Havasu Falls. Any waterfalls that you've been to, I want you to think about when we're doing this. Now, this is a super simple project, as you can see. You don't need many supplies. You just need a good paper, preferably watercolor paper, but you can use whatever you have. Just a normal Crayola watercolor pan, crayons, oil pastels or crayons, whichever one you have, one paintbrush, kind of bristly paintbrush. That's what we make, kind of like a water splashing up at the very end. Some white tempera paint if you have it. Anything you don't have, we can adjust it to use what you do have. So you could definitely use colored pencils with this, I think, or crayons. Any of it can be adjusted. This is just what I used. Now, the drawing guide I included is really simple. It breaks down this project very simply in how you draw it, okay? So the very first thing that you do is you take an oil pastel and you draw a horizon line up at the very top. And that horizon line is kind of curving, and it's really far up towards the top of the picture because we're standing down here at the bottom of the waterfall looking up. And after you do that, you draw some kind of bumpy shrubbery or trees down here. It's really basic. And you can do that with an oil pastel or crayon, a black oil pastel or crayon. And then you're just going to take a crayon or oil pastel and you're going to draw about four sections. They're going to be sections of rock and waterfall. And you're going to do that with just like a gently curving line. Now those sections are going to be smaller up at the top and they're going to get bigger the farther we go down. And you can see that in your drawing guide. You're just going to draw gently rolling sections with a black crayon or black oil pastel headed down to your tree line. Now after you draw that, you're going to draw a curving line coming all the way down, and that's going to be the path of your waterfall. You're going to do that with the same thing, a black oil pastel or crayon. And it's going to start off smaller at the top of our waterfall, and the base of it, where we're imagining that we're standing, is going to widen in front of us. So it's going to be wider at the bottom. So super simple thing to draw. And lastly, we're going to draw the tree line up at the top, and that's just going to be some kind of like zigzaggy lines that we're drawing. Maybe there's mountains above us, just a tree line up here at the top. Super simple. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some shading and details using more oil pastels or crayons. So I just picked out a few crayons and added some purples and tealish greens on top of my tree line, and I added some swirls in my sky, and this one I'm going to make a sunset sky. And then where my rocks are, I just add some curved lines, and you can see that here, just some browns, some curved kind of like sea lines. You could use browns, blacks, grays, whatever you have or want to use, just to add some round elements to those rocks. And then for my bushes, I'm imagining this one's kind of in fall, so have some oranges and reds in this bush that I've just added little curved bumpy lines, and some greens and yellows over here with my crayons or oil pastels. And lastly, I did my waterfall, just added some darker blue lines. I used a few different colors in this one, Now when you do this, you want to make sure that you only color one section at a time, or add details to one section at a time. We don't want one continuous ripple. We want to do it all in sections. Okay, and that's true for all of the rocks and the water. So we're going to do it in sections going up the waterfall. Just little details that are going to look pretty, some pretty texture once the watercolor goes on it. After we do that, then we can start watercoloring. And the first thing that I watercolored in this picture is not what I normally do. Normally I work from the top down, but here I did my water first. And with this picture, you start with the bottom of each section and work up with your brush, just dipped in blue watercolor paint. You bring it up right here. I came up almost to the top, but I left the top area kind of open, not a whole lot of blue paint there, because I'm going to come back with my white tempera paint and dab some of that water crashing down to each level of my waterfall at the very end. But I'm going to, make some choppy brush strokes of blue to kind of give movement to my waterfall. So that's what I did right here. Went up each segment of the waterfall like that, and then I started at the top and worked my way down. I did my sky. I did a combination of blues and purples. You can do whatever you want. In this one I was going to do a sunset type of sky, and you don't see a whole lot of it. Then I did my tree line, did some lime greens, a little bit of like a leafy green, and kind of let the two colors merge together. Then for my cliff area where all my rocks are, I did a combination of yellows, browns there, and I kind of let them run together. I would start on one side, kind of put some yellow, and maybe come down here at the bottom and put brown and let them kind of merge together. And I did that for each segment, and I kind of tried to make sure that all my brush strokes in that section were curved to kind of give the illusion of a curved rock face. And then down here I just picked, I made sure in each section that I used more than one color so it wouldn't look flat. So here in my bushes I used orange and yellow, or red and orange, and green and yellow over here. So it's a super simple drawing. Different extra details I added at the end is that I took some white tempera paint that I have right here, put it in a little plate, dabbed my brush into it, and then right here at the bottom where all my water is crashing, I put some of that white paint so it looked like I had water splashing everywhere, and I put it on each little section of my waterfall where it was going down to the next level. I also, when I finished all the sections, took my brush that had white paint on it, put my finger over the brush, and kind of flicked some white paint on it to kind of look like it was splashing up at the bottom. Something else I didn't mention the supplies because this is just something extra that I had, is I took some chalks that I had, some chalk pastel, and I added some shadows into my rocks with that, with some browns and yellow chalk pastels. I worked in some gray, I worked in some extra dimension with my chalk pastel, and I did the same thing up here in my sky. I put some purple swirling strokes in there and blended them in with my finger. And there you have it, a super simple rushing waterfall. And I told my little girl that I would show hers. This is my little first grader Mariah's rushing waterfall. So it's super easy to do, and I hope it reminds you of some great waterfalls that you and your family have visited, and hopefully when everything opens up you can go back to visiting them. We always love to go to Roaring Run a couple times during the summer. It's a real treat to have a picnic there and swim in the really ice cold water there. Hope you guys are doing great. I look forward to seeing your pictures that your parents are going to send me or that you're going to upload to your Google Classroom assignments. Miss you guys. Bye.